So he's going to explain now, in order to understand the shaylas that he asked on the pasuk Monoh Afar Yaakov Mispar Esrova Yisrael, why the pasuk invokes Yaakov and Yisrael, why it mentions Mispar when it says already Monoh. To understand that, and also to understand the medrash that Eden compared to a ginas, a goizim, a garden of nuts, which when you fill a sack with nuts, there's still room to put other things in. So too, Eden gather geirim. So what's the connection, he asked, between that and the Monoh Afar Yaakov? Because the medrash says it on those words. Monoh Afar Yaakov, how do you see Monoh Afar Yaakov? What's the connection? So he began to explain the difference between Yaakov and Yisrael, the way it is, mitzad the neshama, the way it is, 3 levels. Neshama, no. The Rosh Neshama, the regal of the neshama, and then there's during the week, Shabbos, and during, as opposed to the weekday, Shabbos is leira omer be Yisrael, but the weekdays lahibit oven be Yaakov, as he explained the difference. And he explained, but however, in order for the avodah of Yaakov is to bring the yud into the ekev, that's the whole avodah. And then when that avodah is done properly, that achana, then you have the inyan of Mishatorach Avodah of Shabbos, Yechel b'Shabbos, the avodah of Shabbos. Nonetheless, it still needs, and the avodah of Shabbos is not shaykh to oven, but it is shaykh to. There could be, but there isn't omal on Shabbos. It's tranquil. Now, since Shabbos is radically different than the weekday, there has to be the transition, and that's the tefillin mikvah erev Shabbos oisius abitl. That he's mevatel the tzir of his tzir the way he is during the week, and he becomes a tzir, a new tzir appropriate for Shabbos, and that's true not just of the Yid himself, but all of the Eilmus as concluded the Ois with. Right, that's an overview of Ois Beis. The Ois Gimel, the Yevim beprat Yes Yois. Understand this in greater detail. Mimashe Matzina binyan Aschar. By looking at the reward, Shazel in the Gan Eden, that's Gan Eden. Shaboy tzadikim yosh v'nei meziv hashchina, and the Gemara says in Berachas tzadikim sit and delight in the rays of the Shechina. Shazel schar ha'avodah, it's not some reward unrelated to the avodah; it's the reward of the avodah and result of the avodah. So if it's the reward, it reflects the avodah itself. As we explained many times, that reward in Torah is consequence. And punishment is also consequence. So in avodah also there's the union of Gan Eden. And 2 darkness, as we see. Just like so just like the avodah, the appropriate, the highest avodah of the Yid is b'chol ma'itcha. B'chol ma'itcha is v'hayno sheshleimus avodah he b'yoyis l'loy hakbala, the true avodah, the perfect avodah is without limits. Not that he's yoytze and he stops there. Rather, b'fin the malim b'kodesh adin sof, he ascends in holiness endlessly. So that's the avodah. So therefore, the Gan Eden, the true Gan Eden, which comes as a result of a true avodah, is similar. In Ikemoikin Gamaschad the Gan Eden, u'ba'ofen shel aliyas adin ketz. There's darkest in Gan Eden, but the Gan Eden that is elicited by B'chol Ma'itcha is aliyas without end. So this is the meaning in the pasuk that we say, well, the tefillah in Shmona Esrei. We say, Kedoshim v'chol yom, the holy ones each day, Yalalucha, praise you, Selah, and Selah means forever. The Koi is referring to what? Alaliyas HaNeshamas, the Neshamas ascent. Every year, Nikroim Kedoshim, they're called holy, and where they are ascending, began Eden, in Gan Eden. It means this now, but we don't feel it now, but that's the effect that we're having. Al Yedei HaHilul, through the praise of God, Yalalucha. What's the Hilul? Shazel Inyan Hashira, this is song. The Avodah B'Simcha. Shal yoda hi aliyah. He says here very in the Kudah brought in Chassidus frequently that the union of Shira and Simcha is not just something additional to the Avodah, but it's integral to the Avodah, and there can be no ascent without song. It doesn't go to Pratim here, but the union of song has many dimensions. It's longing, and therefore there's ascent right there in the longing. The union of a song repeats itself. It reflects the bligvul, therefore leaving of the current level and ascending to a higher level. In many dimensions, the union of Shira. Ki yadua binyan kol balei hasher yotzim b'sher. It's a Mishnah in Masechta Shabbos that animals that have a collar, a sheir is a collar. So they have a collar, they wear a collar, and they can wear a collar on Shabbos. It's not considered a burden, as opposed to other things which would be considered a burden, and one's animals must rest on Shabbos. So Chassidus teaches, or just changes the pronunciation of the word sheir and reads shir. It's called Bali Ashir Yoitzim B'Shir. That the masters of song, Yoitzim, they ascend from one Rishus to the other. That's the subject of the Mishnah through Dafka, through song. I'm just thinking that, it's completely unrelated whatsoever, to the simple Pshat in the Mishnah. It's a different word, in fact. But because the Mishnah could have said it much simpler. Mishnah could have phrased that if the animal wears a collar, you can go out on Shabbos, that they Bali Shir Yoitzim B'Shir. So it's hinting to the masters of song and ascending through song. Whatever. Akoponim, it's quoted often in Chassidus, it's originally from the Alter Rebbe. Shezeh b'li hefsek, so the Aliyah, the pasuk concludes, K'doshim b'chol yom yalelucha, which is the Bali Shir, Sela. Shezeh b'li hefsek, without end, Sela, k'may marazal, like it says in Gemara, native in Kalmak, Mishnema Netzach Sela Voed, wherever the pasuk says either the word Netzach, or Sela, or Voed, ein lehefsek eilomes, it never stops, it's eternal. So here, Yalalucha Sela is the Aliyah without end, which is a result of the avodah of what? Of B'chol which is the Shleimus avodah. But now he says, Elo, so in these Aliyahs Gufa, which are Bligvul, which is a result of the avodah B'chol Ma'itcha, Elo Shaliyas Elo, Nechlokil, Beisugim Klolim, they divide into two general categories. Gan Eden Atachnu, Gan Eden Eli. The lower Gan Eden and the higher Gan Eden. In general, that's Olam HaYitzirah and Olam HaBriyah. V'hinei Aliyah, Mimadreg, V'prot Madreg is the Gan Eden. Now the ascent, even within each level of Gan Eden, in the bigger picture, Aliyah Gan Eden Atachten, the Gan Eden Elian, to ascend from the lower Gan Eden to the higher Gan Eden, so there's this Omad, the Zoyar, the Medrash, could be even Gemara, this Omad, this pillar that is, one needs to ascend between one level and the other. In other words, he's saying it's somewhat radical, and therefore needs a radical ascent. As he spoke earlier, that's the immersion in the mikveh out of Shabbos. And likewise, there's the inyan of Nahar Dinur, this river of fire, and the neshamas, that the neshamas have to immerse in. In general, that's referring to the transition from Gehenna to Gan Eden. Or not even Gehenna, sorry, from Elam Hazeh. So even at the very beginning, before the neshama begins its aliyahs, so it's got to be purged. Like Yidezem is battling, so immersion in this river of fire, Nahar Dinur. So this neutralizes Kanal Tefillin in Habitl. We said before that Tefillah is the same letters of Habitl, Me'atzir Shalahem. So the neshama has to forget the Chesed Achai Alma, the whole imagery of this world that defined the person's life. He's got to divest himself of that. It's got to be burnt away. Otherwise, he's not going to be able to receive anything. So that's the Nahar Dinur. So it seems here that this immersion in the river of fire is not just from Gehenna to Gan Eden, but even in Aliyah's Gufa. It doesn't bring sources, so it's hard to know. But Dugmas Hatvila ben Nahar Dinur, this is similar to the immersion, the classic immersion in the river of fire. You should be Gehenna Gan Eden Atacht. To go from Gehenna to Gan Eden Atacht. So there's, I said before, after death, it looks like it's after first Gehenna, then in Nahar Dinur, then Gan Eden. Here it's Kecheza the Hayalma, in order to forget, Kedisa Bezoyah, like it says in Zoyah, Cheza means the imagery of this world. If the person does not burn this off, gets in the way. And cannot receive his reward from Gehenna. But that's going from Gehenna to Gan Eden Atacht, which is obviously radical. The Chiddush is even in Gan Eden Gofer. There is a tzarich bittul atzir the Gan Eden Atachten. So there also has to be the bittul of the tzir Gan Eden Atachten. The shuchel is alis ulekabel is atzir Gan Eden Elyon in order that he should be able to receive the revelation of Gan Eden Elyon, which is radically greater and beyond Gan Eden Atachten. So the old form has to dissolve. Doesn't bring here, but we all know the example in the Gemara. What's the example in the Gemara for this? Famous illustration Chassidus brings.
40 fasts?
Yeah, who? Remember who? There's two opinions, 40 or even 100 fasts. Rabbi Zera, when did he fast?
Probably to yourself, right?
The transition from Babli to Risham, the similar Indian. It's much clearer there because you would think you don't fast to forget what you learned if you're going to a higher academy. On the contrary, you want to really review what you learned and come with it all clear and having freshly reviewed it. The opposite is to forget it. Does that mean that everything you learned is in vain? What do you think it means to forget it? That is absolutely nothing. He wasted all of years learning Bavli. You think that's what it means? No, so then what does it mean?
Preparation.
I'm asking what it means. What does it mean to forget? You just told me a second ago, no, now you said yes. So yes or no? What does it mean to forget it? Likewise, Gan Eden Atachten, Gan Eden Elyon. Forget what it was, Gan Eden Atachten. That was, now it's Gan Eden Elyon, what was, and let go of it. Shlecha, it's Kedusha we're talking about. So what does it mean to forget?
Level of beton. You're like Mavato.
What?
It's like a level of beton.
He's just throwing words at me, but what does it mean? Do you forget or don't forget? Do you carry it with you? You don't carry it with you.
The predisposition, the disposition of the previous oilum.
Disposition?
Meaning your way of thinking. It doesn't mean you forget everything. Just you stop thinking this way.
Yeah.
We'll teach you how to think now. You have all the knowledge, but
so I'm asking you, do you employ the knowledge or not?
No.
Not at the beginning, for sure not.
Oh, there's something new. And later
For sure not. But you take the knowledge, but you don't take that schnit.
Okay, maybe I'll elaborate what you're saying. Anybody wants to add? Think, tracht. What do you think it means? What do you think it means? His whole Bavli, his whole life devoted to Bavli, Gornish, out. Coming like a complete ignoramus. Is that what it means?
No.
Or we come in without preconceived notions. Preconceived notions. I'm going with that.
Clears his mind from his.
But I'm still not.
He doesn't hang on. He doesn't hang on.
I'm asking. So what's the value?
Like when I come here.
So what's the value of the Bavli that you learned? If the way you learn Yerushalmi is a whole different level, what's the value of Bavli? What's he hanging on to?
Because he couldn't get to your Yerushalmi without Bavli.
So that's still jettisoning it. You couldn't get, it's like the rocket fuel. You couldn't get from there to there, but it's gone, finished. It's no longer there. We acknowledge, thank you very much that I had this, it brought me to here. But you're not bringing it to the next level. That's what you're telling me. You're throwing around words I'm not hearing. Is it there or not? Is the limit of Bavli there or not? Everything you learned.
So what's the answer?
I want to challenge you to think. Look, the answer is, L'chaira, I'll lead you along. Is Bavli Torah? Is it Torah Hashem? Is it Likus?
Yeah,
Is it divine knowledge?
yeah.
So that core essence remains, of course, the Likus Shebedova. The Likus, the Rotzen Hashem, the godliness and everything that he learned. But as you were suggesting, the tzir, its limit expressed in this way, that he lets go of. And ready to learn everything you learned, every mitzvah, in a higher tzir. But the essence of it, every pasuk that you learned, every mission, that remains. But that its havana is pegged like this? No, open. He comes in with the pasuk, with the likus that he learned. The pshitus of it. The pshitus of it. Not the I understand it, but the it. It's not like he comes now to learn Yerushalmi, you start learning Hilchot Shabbos, what's Shabbos, and what, no, forgot. And what no lamp that's malach, he knows nothing. That's for shalom. He knows everything that you learn, he carries it with him. That's the point of the Maimir, the tzir of it. Meaning to say, the understanding of it, that it's pegged in this way, that's gone. And he's open to a whole new way of expressing the etzem, which he carries with him. The nekuda, another way, to put this in even simple language, the nekuda sachachma he carries with him. The bina, the tzir, it's opened to a new level of bina. But the nekuda, the hanocha, the nekuda, he carries with him. Looking for another answer? Other. Okay, somewhat clear. Give another explanation, offer it.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm saying this dafka as a challenge, there's trachten. There's no substitute, you have to think yourself. Think. Did we finish the ois?
Yeah, we finished.
Yeah, so now, we started it. Oh,
We
ois
finished
dal.
those.
We did ois gim. Okay, ois dal. Okay, let's learn together. So to understand this, we first have to preface. Let's understand the difference between these two Gan Edens that requires this bittul between the immersion and the river of fire. Gan Eden Atachte, Gan Eden Elyon. You've not been much called the Zut. The Zut is a part of the Zohar. So understand this by prefacing what it says in Zohar. She'eden ilo'o, the higher Gan Eden, what's that madrege? First now the geography, the levels. Hiprinas moicha, that's level of moichin chachma stima. We've learned about this. There's the hidden level of chachma, non-articulated, as opposed to the revealed level. Nothing's going into those details now, but that's moichin, in brackets. But Proteus, Nikeras, Gamkin, Chachmila, without going to Chachma Stima, Chachma Gluya, in general, the high Gan Eden is Chachma. Veit in Tato, pure Chachma. Veit in Tato, Pchinas Chachma Deza. The lower Gan Eden is also Chachma, that's what it is, but not pure Chachma, it's transcendent state, but Chachma, the Zohar, it relates to what Zohar? In a word, one word, the Midas. These are just words, let's understand them. They're levels, Vinyabazeh. So the inyan is as follows. What's the inyan of Chachma on its own? It's pure Chachma and Chachma of Zohar. Tihine afshe Eden miloshen idunim. So the word Eden comes to the word idunim, which means delights, indulgent pleasure. In Yonei Tainuk. So even though Eden is Tainuk is delight, Hari Iker ascholas gilu yatainuk b'chachma. Where is the primary revelation expression of Tainug is in Chachma, this discovery. Like we see a person down here. When a person has a new insight, and that's what Chachma is discovery, epiphany, the beginning of the revelation of Seichel, it becomes full of joy. It's a eureka moment. The Gemara describes how a sage, all of a sudden his face glowed. When he found a new Tosefta, a new teaching that he didn't know. So this new discovery caused this great delight. So even though he's mid-sentence kind of here, even though that the Iker Gilead Tainig is in what? In this epiphany moment of discovery, you can all appreciate that, right? That this would cause Tainug. Yeah? So even though Taka, the beginning of the revelation of Tainug is Dafkin Chachma, which is in the Kudas HaSeichel, at the point when he has that discovery, if he's disturbed, he's going to lose it, right? It's like the light bulb that goes on for a second. So it's only in the Kudah. He continues, so there's that moment of eureka, that moment of pleasure. But the expansion of the pleasure, the gishmak is not in the discovery. The gishmak is in the details of it. How this discovery explains this and that, and it illuminates so many areas. In the quote of Bel Shem Tov, the nitty-gritty. Bel Mochke talks about the nitty-gritty in his Verbringens. Ubebina dafke. Kiyudua, she is galus atik bebina, as is known from the Zohar, that where is atik revealed, its first flashes in Chachma, but where is it revealed and tasted? Where's the Tainug? It's not so much in the discovery, but in the application of it, the understanding of it in detail. When idea now is extended and he understands in the Kudah and it explains this and he applies it there and it illuminates so many areas and brings clarity to the whole subject in detail. It's in every one of those steps that the Tainug continues to expand, and that's really Gishmak. The moment of the discovery wouldn't be called a Gishmak moment. In translation, how do you say Gishmak in English? I don't know. But you can appreciate the difference. There's this eureka, moment that's the pure Tainug in its purest form. But it's not internalized where like the heart swells. The heart isn't swelling there with the beauty of the idea and how beautiful it is and how it applies, etc. It's much more ethereal, and he's in a state of bittul there to the idea. That's Chachma is bittul. He's transfixed to that moment that the idea illuminates him. There's a deep, tainug that he solved the problem. He's discovered something new. It's a great release. But the gishmak is dafka in the application. When that idea is translated and implemented and illuminates and binah, and he builds a whole edifice, binyan lashon binyan, that's where the gishmak develops and deepens. when you really take ownership of it and understand it. Chachma, you see it, but bin is you're understanding it. Yeah. Elo, he continues, the mind elaborates for us. We're learning, I didn't learn it yet, friends, we'll learn it together. Elo shebechachma, in chachma, liyos in the kuda atzmis. So the discovery of the idea in chachma is just the essential point. Nekuda b'levad. Nekuda atzmis, but it's an essential point that will be developed and yield so much insight. Shalaseichel of the idea. He's elaborating. So what's the tainug at the chachma level? It's essential. It's not manifested. It's not swelling the heart. He's not, Bemis is not even aware of his pleasure. That's how transcendent it is. Whereas in Bina, where he's now thinking it through and analyzing, grasping it, in Bina, he's now expanding the idea. It's not the essence, and it's the expansion of it. So then, as a nasi is galus v'yispashtus atainug. Then the pleasure, the delight that he connected to the experience on an essential level now spreads and expands, and that's Gan Eden. So in Gan Eden, so that's Gan Eden. These are things we've learned before, friends. Look at the two words here. Hainu. So he's drawing the tainug of Chachma, which that's the union of Eden, and into where? Into the garden. Bebina in the Gan. Like a garden, there's a place that's not a seed, it's a place where things have developed and grows, etc. Like the pasuk says, the Eibishter planted Gan be'Eden mikedem. The garden in Eden mikedem, different meanings. In the east, mikedem also means earlier, kodam. So what's Gan be'Eden? What's Gan be'Eden? Shezel yichud chachma bina. So it's the yichud, so it's the nekudas hachachma being expressed in bina. That's the summary of Gan Eden. We're clear? Eden is chachma and Gan is bina. Gan Eden is the yichud, the drawing of the nekuda, that essential tainug into experience, manifested, heart-brimming tainug, or mind-filling tainug. Yeah? Vod tzadikim, so that's Gan Eden with tzadikim yoshem and then where they sit and benefit. He's emphasizing the sitting. Sitting means you take it into a pnimius, because that's bina. Internalizing the revelation and its expansion within the recipient. That's bina. That's the tzaddikim that are grasping. What does it mean? It's a simple language. Grasping kudas hachachma is the Eibishter's own reality. It's kudas hachachma bittul. It's a profound appreciation of the absolute reality of Alikus, and then internalizing that in Bina. That's overall what we're talking about. Yeah? So that's in general Gan Eden. Let's hit the pause button. Everybody just kind of summarize what we learned now in this Dalit. It's going to help us remember it if we're engaged more in the process. Hope you don't mind. Okay, so let's go. So what do you say? He studied first the geography. To understand the difference between the two levels of Gan Eden, he says, it says in Itra Zutta. What does it say there? The higher Gan Eden is what? Yeah, Chachma. And the lower Gan Eden? Chachma Dezah. Fact. Now explanation. What is Eden altogether? Tainug. So where's the first and primary revelation of Tainug is taka where? In Chachma. However, the expansion of it, the experience of it, not a fleeting moment. Chachma was a fleeting moment, and it's gone. But the sustained, I'm adding another word over here, the sustained gishmak, and the expansion is dafka where? In Bina. Okay, that's a summary. So that's the meaning of Gan Eden. What's Gan Eden? Eden goes on what? Eden is the level of Chachma. It's the pure Tainug, the Atzmizdike Tainug. Hashem planted the garden in Eden, so Eden is being expressed in the Gan, and the garden, the developed garden, is what? That's Bina. Then there's two levels. There's Gan Eden HaTacht and Gan Eden HaElyon. Let's continue from there. Okay, good. Gufa, let's continue now. Yes, the Gan Eden HaTacht, the higher level and the lower level Gan Eden. Gan Eden HaElyon hu, Masha Nimshach me'Eden ila lebina. So the high Gan Eden is Chachma to Bina. Gan Eden HaTachten, Masha Nimshach me'Eden tato. Here we're drawing on the lower level of Eden, which means a lower level of Chachma, not the level of Chachma that connects to Bina, but there's a lower level. We need to understand what that means. That's the Chachma of Zoh. So it's Tainug, Gilead Tainug Legabi Zoh, not Tainug in Bina, manifested in Bina, but Tainug manifested in the emotions in Zoh. And in Zoh itself, we get details. Bechinas Bina de Zoh, Bina within Zoh, and all the way down, Ad Bechinas HaMalchus, the lowest level of Zoh, which is Malchus. Square brackets. The Noisef Lazeh, in addition to this, Negam Gan Eden HaTachten, Nimshech V'nizgala Ha'or Bechinas Eden Ilo. Brackets, which means, square brackets means, it doesn't have to be in the text, but it adds something tangential and significant. And that is that Gan Eden HaTachten is not disconnected from Gan Eden HaElyon. There's a revelation, in addition to its own experience, is also a ha'ora of Eden Ilah. Mu Baruch B'Makemachas is explained elsewhere. That's quite fascinating. Yeah, just by Chassidim, of course, we are Chassidim. Gan Eden HaTachten is the antechamber, the little room there, Gan Elyon. So Gan Eden HaTachten is already a ha'ora of Gan Eden HaElyon. Now, this is Moedadik to know, my friends. Just standing there in that room. Dayenu. Okay, Venimtza, let's continue. Shebeis Abchin is the Gan Eden HaTachten, Gan Eden HaTachten. So what now? Now, we're developing our understanding of these two levels, these two Gan Edens. So these two levels comes out now. Bechlolos beis abchinas de bina u'malchus. Both of them. Let's continue. Shebehem nimshachim bchinas hachachma u'bchinas zoh. So in the big picture, the higher Gan Eden is bina, connecting to chachma. The lower Gan Eden is Zoh, all the way down to Malchus, in which, he says, the lower one, Shebehem nimshachim, b'chinas chachma or b'chinas Zoh. The higher, the two. The higher Gan Eden, what dominates is chachma, and the lower Gan Eden, Zoh, even though he said before chachma, the Zoh. Okay, let me just read a bit further. This is very technical and geographical. We have to get it straight before we begin to understand. Let's read a bit further. Basis of Kabbalah, in the languages of Kabbalah, Gan Eden Elyon is Yichud Yud-K. And then the Elyon is the unity of Yud and Hey. Yud is Chacham, Hey is Bina. And the lower Gan Eden is Vav and Hey, Zoh and Malchus. What's throwing us a bit off is, they said before, Chachma. He kept on threading Chachma through it all, because that's obviously there in a latent way in all of the revelations. So let's read two more lines and we visit Beis Hashem tomorrow. Ubachlol saying in the Gan Eden. No. Okay. Now he's adding a new thing now. This is important. Let's add it. We'll read this further and we'll revisit it tomorrow, friends. Closing the Gan Eden, that's Gan Eden as it is, as God set it up. But then there's added to it even more. There's all the mitzvahs through man's service. Like it says, God placed Adam in Gan Eden, to work it and to protect it. In addition to what's drawn into the garden, into Bina from Chachma, which naturally is Chachma, what's naturally drawn is on the external level of Chachma into Bina, but through Avodah, the Taisa Bazeh Galam Shachrin as Pnimis HaChachma. We'll revisit that Be'ez Hashem tomorrow. From Pnimis HaChachma is drawn into Bina, that's Dafka through Avodah, and not naturally. Okay, so we visit that Be'ez Hashem tomorrow.